Yo, what's up guys, it's King Sean here, back with another video, and in today's video, I'll be discussing 5 players that stood out in the Senior Bowl that the Commanders should keep an eye on. So, if you guys are new to my channel, leave a like down below, subscribe, turn on notifications. I'm on the road to 3K subs. If you could, hit that sub button, I'd really appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. Alright, so the first guy we're going to start off with here is Toledo cornerback Quinan Mitchell. And Quinan Mitchell, he is in the top 5 for my favorite cornerbacks in this draft class. Some other guys include Terrion Arnold and Nate Wiggins, but Quinan Mitchell, he's super good. Before the Senior Bowl, he was expected to go like late first, early second. After the Senior Bowl, he could be going, well, I think he's going to for sure go first round. But if he does fall to the second, that is a guy the Commanders should definitely look out. If he falls to like pick 36 or pick 40, where our second round picks, we gotta look at him for sure. His size, he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. I think he measured like 5'11" at the Senior Bowl, I'm pretty sure, but that's still a pretty solid size. Some of his strengths include, first off, his stats. This past 2023 season, he had 41 total tackles, 1 interception. In 2022, he had 5 interceptions. He has a knack for the ball. He is a ball hawk. You know who else is a ball hawk? Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes isn't very good, but the thing with Kenyan Mitchell is that he actually made like a lot of plays, not only interceptions, but he would constantly be breaking up passes, defending passes. Even in the Senior Bowl, he was constantly making plays, and that's what you want to see from your cornerback. You don't want to just see them pick the ball off every single time, which is obviously a good thing, which Emmanuel Forbes did in college, but he did get beat. He did get beat a bit in college, and obviously that shows in the NFL as well. And I know transitioning from college to NFL as a rookie cornerback is hard, very hard, but still, Emmanuel Forbes, he didn't look good his rookie season. So Quinan Mitchell, although he has a knack for the ball, he's a ball hawk. He consistently stays with his wide receivers. Well, his opposing wide receivers, he saw in the Senior Bowl. He didn't play in the actual game, but in practices, he looked really good. I'd say he's probably the winner of Senior Bowl week, either him or Darius Robinson. Darius Robinson is another guy I'd be pretty interested in if I were the Commanders. But Quinan Mitchell, he was super impressive in Senior Bowl practices. All right, so now on to the next guy. Next up on the list is Patrick Paul, and Patrick Paul has turned into one of my favorite tackle prospects in this draft. He is indeed the brother of our guard, well, the Commanders guard, Chris Paul. So drafting him, there are some connections there, serious connections. Paul is 6'7". It's crazy how identical he looks to Chris Paul, by the way. But he's 6'7", 315 pounds. You could say 315. He's 6'7" at 315. Could say that's a little underweight, but I think that's still fine. He should hold up well in the NFL. He's a redshirt senior. He had a 81 point. PFF gave him an 81.1 grade in 2023. He only allowed 1 sack this past season. He allowed only 5 sacks in his entire career. 1 in 2022 and 3 in 2021. Only allowed 7 hurries this past season and 1 hit. So he is a very profound tackle. Let me read off some of his strengths real quick. He has great length, obviously at 6'7". He has long arms. He frequently wins the race to first contact against the edge rusher, obviously, or the defensive lineman. Has great core strength and a heavy frame. Now, some weaknesses are he does need to work on a bit of his footwork, and he lacks some quickness. He does lack some quickness, but overall, he struggles a little bit to adapt a short area athlete. Well, struggles against a short area athlete. So those are really all the main weaknesses of Chris Paul. But overall, he showed a lot of his strength. First off, during the Senior Bowl week, he looked really good yesterday in the actual game. And if we were to draft him, I'd be very happy. Now, there is another tackle who I'm about to get to here on this list who I like even more than Paul. He is a right tackle. Y'all might be able to guess him, but let's move on to him right now. All right, so the guy who I was talking about was Oklahoma right tackle Tyler Guyton, who I've been warming up to so far during this draft process. Excuse me. But he has your prototypical size for a tackle. He's 6'7". He's super tall, 328 pounds. Let me read off some of his strengths real quick. Well, first of all, his PFF grade is actually only a 63.7, which a bit surprising because he didn't allow a single sack this past season. Now, he allowed 3 hurries and, well, sorry, 3 hits and 9 hurries, which isn't amazing, but still pretty low. So I don't know if that played a factor in his PFF grade. Well, major factor, but let me read off some of his strengths. He's tall, well built, and high mass blocker with good length, flexibility, and reach. Obviously, he has your prototypical size. He is pretty explosive off easy first step when attacking as a run blocker. He's a really good run blocker. I'd say he can improve a bit as a pass blocker, but he can easily do that during the duration of this offseason and once he gets drafted into the NFL. He moves with a steady center of gravity and can freely redirect laterally in phase. Let me see some of his weaknesses. He's not an elite length, slightly detracts from maximum power and torque capacity. So his arms are a bit, well, actually, although he's 6'7", you could say his arms are a bit shorter in length. He has solid length, however, he may not be proportionally elite, so that could be a bit of an issue. But overall, he's a very solid prospect. He showed a lot of promise this Senior Bowl week. I'd say he was a top 3 tackle, top 3 offensive lineman in general this week during the Senior Bowl practices. Didn't really notice much of him in the game yesterday, but he was a force. He was winning almost all of his reps, really. He worked against Laiatu Latu a couple of times. He was really good against him. Same with Patrick Paul, actually. They were both good. They won some reps against him, who was the best edge rusher in this draft class. So I like Tyler Guyan a lot. If he falls to like the second round, I feel like he will be in the second. I would definitely select him. All right, so the next guy I wanted to talk about is Adisa Isaac. And Isaac is one of the many edge rusher prospects that I feel like we should take a look at, but he is one of my top guys. I watched Adisa Isaac film yesterday. Before the Senior Bowl, he looked super, super good. I mean, he was constant. Well, in the Senior Bowl, during Senior Bowl practices, in the game yesterday, he was constantly winning on his one-on-ones against tackles, offensive linemen in general. That's the speed he has on the edge is insane. First off, he's 6'4", 254 pounds. This past season at Penn State, he had 37 total tackles, 7.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. And yeah, I mean, he had solid production this past season. The year prior to that, in 2022, he had 4 sacks. In 2020 and 2019, he had 1.5 sacks each, respectfully. So he put up some good numbers at Penn State. But man, if you watch the film, he has great lateral agility. He has great speed off the edge. There are still some concerns about him being able to consistently generate some push or pressure one-on-one against tackles. But what I saw in the Senior Bowl yesterday in the actual game, well, actually, I don't think he played in the game, but during practices, what I saw and shout out to everybody who posted clips on social media like Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, because without him, I wouldn't know what happened. None of us who didn't go down to Mobile wouldn't have known what happened. So shout out to them. But the clips I've seen from Adisa Isaac, crazy. I mean, he was constantly winning his one-on-ones, which is super, super impressive because of all this talk being, oh, we can't win on one-on-ones against tackles. So he showed that he could. Now, another negative is he does struggle a little bit in run stopping, and teams could abuse the run against him because they know that, he struggles against the run. But I feel like he can improve that over the offseason and once he gets to the NFL as well. I feel like he'd be a perfect fit on this defense, this Dan Quinn defense. You know who else went to Penn State? Micah Parsons. A little bit of connection there, a little bit, not much, but a little bit. I'm pretty sure, yeah, he was at Penn State since 2019, so he did go to Penn State at the same time as Micah Parsons went to Penn State. So there is a little connection there, so we'll see. But I think he fit perfectly in Dan Quinn's offense. All right, so the last guy I have on here who stood out to me the most is Cedric Gray. He's the guy who stood out to me the most in the Senior Bowl game yesterday. There wasn't a whole lot of impressive guys from yesterday's game, but Cedric Gray, he stood out. He made multiple plays in the backfield, a lot of tackle for losses, pass deflections. This even one pass, I'm pretty sure it was thrown by Joe Milton in the air. Literally, Cedric Gray jumped up in the air to bat it down. It was a beautiful play. It really was by Cedric Gray. He has some negatives to him, like He can overrun plays at time because he is super fast. He's one of the fastest linebackers, one of the fastest players in this draft class overall, which causes him to not being able to slow down once he speeds up, which causes him to miss some tackles in space. Also, he has had 57 total missed tackles ever since 2021 and 19 in 2023 alone, so that is something he needs to clean up. But I'm sure he will clean it up once he gets into the NFL. But like I said, he is great in coverage. He's elite in coverage. This past season at UNC, he had over 120 tackles, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 interception, and 4 pass deflections. Absolutely incredible. In 2022, he had over 140 tackles, 1 sack, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 6 pass deflections. So yeah, he has a lot of pass deflections, pass breakups, and that's because he is an amazing player in coverage. One of the best linebackers in coverage in this draft class. I'd say the best is either him or Peyton Wilson, in my opinion. Those guys are elite in coverage. Maybe even Jeremiah Trotter Jr. as well. All 3 of those guys are amazing in coverage. So Cedric Gray, he's the guy we need because we haven't had a good coverage linebacker ever since like Cole Holcomb. And if you can even argue that Cole Holcomb, he wasn't the best coverage linebacker. He was certainly average, but he wasn't great. He wasn't an elite coverage linebacker. I can't even remember the last time we had a guy like that. So we need a guy like that, and I believe Cedric Gray can be that guy for us. And one more time, I know I've said it multiple times, but speed, speed, speed. He's got the speed to him, need for speed. That's how he's able, to get into the backfield so fast and cause disruption and, tackle, get a lot. He racks up a lot of tackles for losses, and that's an amazing reason as to why. Speed and penetration. He has great penetration as well. So Cedric Gray, I would love him on this team. I really would. I think he'd fit in great with Dan Quinn's defensive scheme. So that is it for today's video. Hope y'all enjoyed. Comment down below what y'all think about the 5 players I have here that stood out in the Senior Bowl that the Commanders should keep an eye on during the draft process. And other than that, it's been King Sean, and I'm out. Peace.